Would you ever bet against Tom Brady in a Super Bowl?
No, I would not. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, it's going to be I think it every year before these Super Bowl games, but to have a guy, it's hard to imagine anyone surpassing what Tom Brady has accomplished. But if there's anyone who potentially could do that, of course, it's going to take some time. It would be Patrick Mahomes. And I think there's great respect between these two teams and between these two quarterbacks, and it's going to be pretty awesome to see how it shakes out.
But you're a competitor. Is there part of you that says, there are things I do better than Tom Brady? Or if no,
yeah, I probably could still outrun him. I mean, I do think although I went to Barry's boot camp and I pulled a hamstring a few months ago, so I'm still recovering from that. But even with that being said, I think I could still outrun him.
But no, you're a competitor. Is Brady that much better than you?
Well, I think the proof's in the results. I think that's life, So from that standpoint, yeah, he's twice as good as me.
and maybe even more if he wins on Sunday.
That's right.
Max, since you're so loved in Boston and you're an expert all things Tom Brady, I think it's only fair I start with you. Is Tom Brady the greatest player in NFL history?
Are you seriously asking, is he the greatest player in NFL history? And by the way, Robert Kraft said by far. The answer is yes. Yes, he is. Whoa! Guys, it's impossible to argue. My eyeballs told me when they were on Lawrence Taylor in his prime, that's the best player I've ever seen. My eyeballs told me, like, if you were watching Walter Payton in his prime, that's the greatest offensive player I've ever seen, right? But it is impossible to argue against a quarterback who's played almost 20 years for the greatest dynasty in the history of football. And by the way, who has improved throughout his career. It's actually 18 years so far. So when I say he's been better on the back nine than on the front, he's improved over the last 9 years compared to the first 9 years of his career. The importance of the position combined with what he has done, and particularly in the postseason, makes him the greatest of all time. I've attributed a lot of that to Belichick, and he deserves it. It is unlikely that the greatest of all time would not be with a great coach or one of the all-time great coaches. In Brady's case, the greatest coach. In Brady's case, I believe it's more Belichick than him this dynasty. But there's not enough evidence for anyone else to successfully argue that the answer is not Tom Brady. Or else, I would.
Go ahead, Will.
I don't know. Did somebody, did the governor of Massachusetts call? I mean, I don't understand. Mayor of Boston, did you get a threat? Are you compromised? Are you under threat here? What happened? This is not what I expected from
Well, let's put
Max
it this way.
Kellerman.
I met with the governor, but I wouldn't allow the translator to take any notes, and then I denied it later.
Real rare moment of insight and light coming from Max Kellerman here. It's not close. It's not close. He's the greatest player of all time. Molly has listed off his postseason accomplishments. He has the most Super Bowl appearances of any player. He's tied for most Super Bowl wins of any player of all time. He plays the most important position in the sport. I would even go one step further than Bob Kraft and Max Kellerman. I would say he is the greatest team sportsman of our time. So I'm going to give all apologies to the Serena Williams and Michael Phelps of the last generation. But I think between LeBron James and Tom Brady, I think that would be the debate on transcending your sport. I think it's Tom Brady. In the end, it's about winning, and he has done something longer, the longevity, the heights of the sport, the accomplishments, 5 and 3 in Super Bowls. It's just unparalleled, and it doesn't even take into account neither what I've said so far, what Max has said, how difficult it is, meaning the sport is designed. The sport is designed for you not to stay on top. It's a combative, violent sport with a hard salary cap. Nothing is designed for you to do what Tom Brady and the New England Patriots have done over the past 2 decades. It's really, honestly, it can't be overstated. Not by me, not by Kraft, not by Max. It's simply astounding what Brady has done.
Well, first of all, in the interest of full disclosure, I know Mr. Kraft. We have a personal relationship. We talk quite often. I love the man. It's one of the things that we religiously disagree upon because I don't agree with any of you. And I'm going to defer to the elder statesmen of the games who actually played as opposed to Mr. Kraft, who actually owns the team that Tom Brady has shined for. Is Tom Brady in the discussion? Absolutely. His credentials speak for itself. I'm not here to dismiss those things. But I think about the impact of a Lawrence Taylor, for example, Max, a 10-time Pro Bowler, a Defensive Player of the Year, 82, 86, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 81, 132 and a half career sacks in his 13-year NFL career. career. I'm thinking about Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver who has ever lived, who accumulated more yards in his 30s than he did in his 20s. 1,500 plus receptions, 22,000 plus receiving yards. Okay, I'm looking at those guys. There could be a couple of others that I could throw into the discussion, but here's where I jump off the wagon for all of y'all. The guys that I brought up transcend eras. With Tom Brady, I think he's been assisted by the softening of today's NFL game, also buffered by the exceptional coaching of a Bill Belichick, who we look. Hold on. The reason I bring it up is because on too many occasions we've debated whether or not Tom Brady deserves the most credit or Belichick. On too many occasions, we've raved. We knew that Chuck Noll was great, for example, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We knew that Bill Parcells was great for the Giants. We knew that Bill Walsh was great for the San Francisco 49ers. So you have people that benefited. But when we talk about Brady, sometimes we've ignored Brady because we've considered Bill Belichick so great, such head and shoulders above the others that you could. Listen, just last year we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo and how it's time to move beyond Tom Brady. I didn't say that, but some people did. The point that I'm trying to make is Bill Belichick has been that great. Tom Brady has benefited from it. It's not to take anything away from Tom Brady, but when you consider the softening of the NFL game,
I want to address
I'm going
those.
that route.
Max, before you respond, can I just ask a quick question of Stephen A. to get the record? So what do you say, Stephen A.? Is Jerry Rice? Is Jerry Rice the greatest player of all time?
For me, I would go Jerry Rice. Yeah.
Okay, look, I would say this. I'm going to take these points one at a time. The era. Yeah, the era has softened and it's now favored the quarterback. You know who played in this era? Peyton Manning. Who's greater between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning? Tom Brady, clearly, because Peyton Manning choked under pressure, and Tom Brady went from just staying the same under pressure to, in recent years, getting impossibly even better under pressure. He jumped out of the Kobe Bryant, Derek Jeter level of clutch into the Michael Jordan level of clutch. Like, oh, my God, you're this good normally and even better under pressure?
Tony Dungy, Jim Caldwell, John Fox.
What's that?
Tony Dungy, Jim Caldwell, John Fox.
What about them?
Those were the coaches for Peyton Manning.
I understand, but also in football, this is the next point, the coaching. Yes, I believe Belichick is the guy. Without Belichick, Brady wouldn't have been as great. But if you have two equally bright students and one goes to community college, the other goes to Harvard, at the end of 4 years, guess who's going to be considered smarter or more accomplished? Probably the kid that went to Harvard. That's inextricably linked.
I hate when you give that example. The kid that goes to community college might hustle harder than the kid that goes to Harvard.
My bet would
make more money in the end.
My bet would be against that. But
not
the point
offended
is,
by it because you said that's your bet. That's
right.
so
The
totally
point is that the one exposed to more resources and better coaching winds up in a better position. That's also Brady, but you can't take that away from Brady. Given his age, Stephen A., given the fact that he's on a brand new team, even if it's loaded, in a COVID season where he couldn't really practice with them and get to know them, given the fact he's going from Belichick, who's the best ever, to Arians, who's good, but he has to get used to, and given the slate of games all on the road, Washington had a really good defense, the Saints beat him twice, Drew Brees in his last game, and then Aaron Rodgers, MVP, at Lambeau. You know, in both cases with Brees and Rodgers, comes down to the end of the game. The other guy messes up, not Tom Brady. I'm saying even if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, this is the most impressive. When you add on top of all that, he is 43 years old. Stephen A., when LeBron was 28, he was about, let's take it up to the point he was about to win the championship. He was trying to go back to back. He had a monster year. He was great in the playoffs, playing both ends of the floor. He was 28. Last year, he was 35 and won the championship. Even had he lost close, what's more impressive? Muhammad Ali, when he was 22, beat Sonny Liston, big underdog. He was in his prime, fast as lightning. When he was 32, he beat George Foreman. The fight was much closer and tougher before he knocked Foreman out. Before he knocked Foreman out. But given his age, it was a more impressive accomplishment. That's what I'm saying. You have to look at all the circumstances and say not who's best. The 07 Patriots were better. What's more impressive? This Super Bowl run.
No, we don't. You do. Because you were the one bringing up cliffs that turned into ravines. That would be you. We didn't do that. Molly didn't do it. I didn't do it. Ryan Clark didn't do it. Swagoo didn't do it. Dan Orlovsky didn't do it. Nobody did it. You did it.
Sure.
That's why you have to take that position. We don't have to.
He's
we can look
Patriot
at the
Hater of the Year or
totality of his
something. He got an
resume.
award.
We can pay attention to hold on, Molly.
Right. You
We
took it
can
for
pay
granted.
attention to 2007. We can sit up there and say, you have to do it because you were the one that wrote his epitaph. You were the one who eulogized him. You were the one that sat up there and said he was done 4 years ago, then 3 years ago, then 2 years ago, even 1 year ago. That was you. We didn't do that. We saw what he had been doing, and we also saw what he wasn't doing. And we didn't attribute it to age and attrition. We just said, yo, he needs to do this or that better. But in 2007, it's 50 touchdowns. It's just 8 interceptions. It's an undefeated record in the regular season through the postseason, okay? A 117 quarterback rating. The #1 offense in yards and points and passing yards. This brother was doing it. And the word impressive comes from the standpoint that we looked at the New England Patriots and we assumed they were absolutely untouchable. If this was 2 weeks from now and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the Super Bowl champions, you would have a point. They haven't won the Super Bowl yet, which puts them right where the 2017 was heading to the Super Bowl, except they were unblemished and blemishes were all over Tampa Bay this year.
2 things. Number 1, that's right, I was the one writing his epitaph, writing his eulogy, all that stuff. Therefore, I'm really the only one in a position to explain how impressive the accomplishment is, since the rest of the world seemed to take it for granted, which is not the right position. In fact, you're right. You're actually pointing out something that's true. People shouldn't be hypocritical and be wowed by this now if you all expected it. I'm actually amazed because it's historically unprecedented. That's number 1. Number 2.
So we need to listen to you because you've been wrong for 4 years. We need to listen to you because you've been wrong for 4 years. What you're trying to do is cut off what we know about in the past. Take less information to prove your argument. The fact of the matter is, not just up until the Super Bowl, we have all the information from 07. They lost the Super Bowl. They were supposed to be the greatest team of all time. They lost the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady was outplayed with the money on the line in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, we have that information now. What I'm saying is this, knowing all of that, it doesn't matter what happens in this Super Bowl. The fact that he even got there at this age with a new team, with the slate of games and quarterbacks he had to face on the road, makes this the most impressive.